Talk about Aussies, and there was a particular incident that happened, Sandpapergate.
Yeah, taking a piece of sandpaper out of your pocket with cameras, like, it's not the most cleverest thing to do. And they were saying, like, no one knows about it. The captain had no idea, the coach had no idea. And then everyone was just like, well, hang on, what's going on here? Everyone knows what goes on in a dressing room.
Today's guest is known for breaching the boundary many times and is considered one of the greatest all-format batters of his era. Along with being one of the best leaders, he was also Proteas captain during one of South Africa's most turbulent, emotionally draining and politically complex periods. Faf, thanks for joining me. It's lekker to see you. I suppose the whole world knows you as Faf, but tell us a little bit, who was Francois growing up?
It's an interesting one because Francois, obviously my passport says Francois, but it was really I think my first time something got mentioned in the newspaper. So maybe when I was like 14, my dad was Groot Faf, Big Faf, and I was Klein Faf, Small Faf. The printing was Faf du Plessis. And it's really from that time where it was like, people just started calling me that more often. And obviously fast forward into academies and stuff, more people printing Faf. It just started fading away more and more and more. Francois became almost a name that I used overseas when I introduced myself, because I find that every time I said Faf, they were like, Faf, Pof. Or like, what? And it's like, what name is that? So I would only use Francois as like when I knew it was coming. People were going to be confused because Faf is not a real name. Like, what kind of name is it? But Faf was like, I liked the fact that it was unique. There wasn't at that stage a lot of Fafs. It's only until recently, until Faf de Klerk started taking a bit of my shine
identity
as the only Faf. So now I have to share it with him. But yeah, it's a nickname that just stuck. And now not a lot of people would know me as Francois.
I suppose we all refer to Faf as a cricketer, but in your younger days, any other sport interest?
Yes, I think as a boy, what you try and do is you just try and be busy, right? Like all of us, you're just trying to do as many sports as possible. So rugby, athletics were the things that I did in primary school. When it came to high school, athletics quickly became a thing of like, I wasn't the quickest or the fastest or jumped the highest or jumped the furthest. So it was like athletics was just a form of staying fit in some sort of way. Rugby, I enjoyed playing rugby, but was never as blessed as some of the other guys at our feast. There was just like these massive guys. At school, I was quite skinny. I remember struggling to pass to the one way. So the first team coach told me, like, if you want to play for the first team, you have to work on your left-hand pass. And I would just be there in the hostel throwing left-hand passes, torpedoes, just to try and get better at it, because I used to like catch the ball and try and spin around and throw it the other way. But it was always just a method to stay fit and do as much as possible. But cricket was always, like with all of us, it was just a thing where I could just see I was better. I was playing with boys that are much older than me. I was in age groups competing against much older than me. So probably started taking it seriously from about, I would say, 15.
Well, you talk about cricket. It's a rich culture in your school. You come from Office, Heino, AB de Villiers, Faf du Plessis,
Jacques
Rudolph.
Cruyff van Wyk. There's a few, yeah. So
Quite a list. Out of the lot, who's the best?
AB, by a long way.
Come on, man. Don't be that obvious.
AB is naturally the most sports, you know this, he's the most talented, most gifted sportsman out of all of them. So just naturally came very easy to him, and his competitiveness with that makes him a superior athlete. But he was the same in all sports. Hockey, I think he started in the C team. Rugby, started in the E team. So just that way of working himself up. But for me, I felt I was taking cricket more seriously a lot earlier because I didn't have the other sports. So I was like, cricket is going to be my thing. had discipline around it from an early age around, yes, I'm going to be young, I'm going to do what I'm do as a youngster, I'm going to go out with my mates. But I always had this sense of like, tomorrow's a cricket match, and there's a cut-off time. I wasn't the Gibbs of the world, that could do.
I've heard a few stories about you in Rhapsodies and
I could
Hatfield
start.
Square.
No, I could start, but I mean, we were young and we were 18-year-old boys. I mean, what do you look to do when you're an 18-year-old young male? But for me, it was the alcohol side of things were always like there was almost like a cut-off time because tomorrow was a match, and it's also something that even till today. Don't mind, love having a glass of red, but understand that if there's a match tomorrow, there's a limit to what I do. So great school. In that sense, we didn't have, at that stage, people were thinking Office as a rugby school. It wasn't a cricket school whatsoever. But things have changed a lot since, all of those names came from the school. And the chat, we've all been a part of that chat when you sit in a room. I remember sitting in a room, even with Dave Nosworthy, when he goes, you're sitting here, 0.001% of the guys sitting in this room will play for South Africa today. And that's fact, right? That so many people do it like that. But if you take that era, there was quite a lot of great cricketers. The other guy was Neil Wagner. That also was in that school. So in that first team, all of us were playing at the same time. So it was a pretty special group.
You make mention of the fact discipline played a big role. Who was one of the biggest influences in your career as a young schoolboy?
I'd say my dad. My dad was an old school Afrikaans dad that you had to do the work, and then as a boy you don't do the work and you get smacked. Like it's as simple as that. So until you understand what discipline is, what hard work is. So very grateful for that, because I think as a young boy you need that. You need some sort of guidance in your life, whether it's your dad or whether it's a teacher or whether it's a coach, someone that really installs in you what it is to have work ethic. Because I think we sometimes think we know what work ethic is, but it doesn't really until you understand what work ethic is. I see that now also with young guys coming through. Like they're still learning that trade of what it is to have work ethic and a drive, what it means to be playing at the top. So yeah, my dad would be the main guy, I would say, that installed that drive.
All right, and let me in. What was the most fun time you had? Was it schoolboy, academy days, or trying to find your way in as a young professional?
I would say just post school maybe. It was a time where for the first time, you're a grown-up, you're a man. So you make your own choices, you got your own freedoms that comes with it. At school, obviously, I loved being in hostel and being around sport the whole time. I didn't love the actual school part of it because the academic side of things was never my area of expertise.
I was about to say, but...
So I was sports and I was naughty around sport. So like I think I'm lucky that I had sport that pulled me in a direction of having discipline, because I think if I didn't have that, I could have maybe also been sucked into some of the bad circles in school. But because I had sport, that was my line in the sand. Like, I'm not going there because of sport. But post-school, same thing, I had no desire for university, and my parents obviously was like, you're going to study. But I was just like cricket. The story that I've spoken about of like the famous story of going with AB the one day and like, we're going to go to university. What are you going to study? Sports science. Oh, that sounds maybe like something I can try and do. What can you do with it? And then standing in the queue and being like, this queue is way too long. I've got no interest in it. I want to play cricket. So like halfway through that, just deciding I'm out of this. I'm going to go play club cricket in England. Phoned my dad, said I'm not going to study. He's like, you're making a mistake, but it's your choice. You got to live with it. And I just said, look, I don't know what I want to study. If I knew what I was going to study, then of course I get why I have to study. But because that drive is not there, until I figure out what the why is and the direction I want to go, it's almost like an off year. What do you call those years?
Gap year.
Gap year. But my gap year was going to go play club cricket in England, where you're a man. You live in a flat for the first time. You have to do the dishes, you have to make your own bed. So I also think there's great learnings in that in my early career. But I think our most fun time was that academy SN19, like when you with mates, traveling the world, getting to do what you love every day. And it's not yet the seriousness of what the stuff is later when it's international cricket and pressures. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a time that we shared. It's the same. I mean, we went on a couple of tours together, so there's some good stories.
Yeah, we won't go too deep into that because that's where the real Faf got born and I suppose made his name in world cricket. In your view, what do you feel is most understood about young professionals entering the game?
Yeah, I think working for something for a long period of time. I think the generation of today, and it's not their fault. It's society has made that right. So now it's like if I score 100, I need to play for South Africa. If I take 1 5-wicket haul, I need to be in the A team. And I think culturally, what we went through is you had to do it for a long period of time. You had to rack in 2 3 seasons in a row of performances before someone would look at you. I made my debut at 26 for South Africa, and it was the right time because I wasn't ready before that. Yes, I might have had a great 100 year, but I was also very inconsistent over a lot of different things. So I had to learn my game at a longer period and actually go through failures. Learn failure, learn how to come back from failure because that's what sets you up. So now, a guy comes in his first season and he goes, I need to play straight away in the SA20. I need to play straight away in the Titans team because I got 100 last week for the B side. And what that doesn't install in you is the fact that you have to back it up over and over and over again. And that consistency, I think, is really something that, once again, if you look at the generation before us, you look at the guys that was there, the Martin van Jaarsvelds, the Jacques Rudolphs, I looked at them and I go, these guys are playing 6 7 years of averaging 50 plus in first class cricket, and they're not playing for South Africa. So would it be fair to say in today's era, if you have one season where you're averaging 50, you're like, I need to get picked, right? Like, why am I not being picked?
I'm so happy you actually bring up that point because I think we're also living in an era where instant gratification. You mentioned the fact that you score 100 and almost justify a selection. But yeah, I suppose that era, we were probably the last of it, where you had to give your graph season in, season out. Was there ever a time where you felt like, I'm never going to make it? I'm always playing in the shadow of someone else and I'm probably not going to get an opportunity. Did you ever
Yeah,
feel like that?
yeah. There's a couple of times. I mean, I think all of us, you always have the insecure voice and the optimistic voice on your shoulder. So especially because myself and AB was like this at school, people then expect you to do the same, right? So it was like we were talked about as the two competing guys at the same level of talent at school. But AB was just always so much better at rising to big moments quickly, like get an opportunity, SN19, final 100, bang. Eyeball selectors pick him. Whereas for me, it was more like the consistency was something that was really important to me through a season. And I was better at the consistency, but not so good at the wow moments. So I still needed to learn about that. And then, yeah, moments of that. I remember I was maybe coming back from club cricket, playing for the Titans, maybe 20, 21, 22, when I wasn't performing as well in 4-day cricket. I had a season where it happens where you just technically, you're not in a great place, with confidence, you're not in a great place, and still figuring out what it is to bat at that level. And post that season, the coach at that time was Chris van Noordwyk, said to me he thinks that I should stop playing red ball cricket. And I had an amazing white ball season in 1-day cricket. And at that stage, I was actually maybe he's got a point. Maybe I should just focus on 1-day cricket because that's the insecurity around your performances. But then the other side was like, no, like come on, man, just go. You're not going to just take the easy option and go to a smaller franchise at that stage and try and go and play where you're gonna bat 3 or 4 where you want to, because I was being moved down to like 6 and 7, and as a young guy, that's a difficult thing in terms of roles, right? Batting with the tail when you're 22 at number 7 versus batting at 4, it's a completely different thing in 4-day cricket. So you need to learn those things. But yeah, I had some doubts and insecurities around that, but it was really, no, I'm not gonna listen to you. I thank you for the advice, but I'm gonna work at this. I'm gonna graft. I'm gonna prove you wrong next season. And in that year, then after that, actually a lot happened. As I went played county cricket, I came back, got an unbelievable season for the Titans in one-day cricket, and got recognised to play for South Africa in one-day cricket. I think it was like 25, 26. So it was around that time. But yeah, there's many a times in my career where I doubted myself, whether I was good enough. Am I ever going to play for South Africa? That conversation was a lot of times in my own mind. It felt at that stage that was a long way from happening, because I looked at the guys that were playing, and then I looked at the guys that were behind them, and I was going, those guys are much better than me. I'm not going to play ahead of them. So, but right throughout my career, that was things that always happened. But then you just have to flick the switch and listen to this guy on the shoulder.
I'm so happy you persevered, because not too far from there, we became teammates. We've traveled the world. Let me in. Who was the funniest guy you've played with?
I feel like it's Mornay. I feel like Mornay is going to be a general.
Everybody have the same answer.
I feel like just because he's so light, yeah, he's got such a kindness around him, but it's very light-hearted. And obviously extremely serious, you know this, when it comes to cricket, like super disciplined around all the things he had to do, because, and I relate to him on that front, you have to work hard to get the rewards, right? Mornay was a workhorse. Like he had to do everything. Whereas like Dale and yourself were naturally, you just had the wrist, you had the action. So from the outside, it didn't look like it was as hard work as it was for him. Like he had to really figure it out, and he was like no balls and where's this and action and where's this. So there was a lot going on in his mind, where naturally for the two of you, it was just like running and ball.
Yeah, I suppose mechanically, because of his height, there's a lot more to consider, and obviously for him, there was a lot more work to put in, but I still feel he was a hell of a bowler. But also I feel, we talk about generations, and we talk about, obviously, the Graham era. I think that was a lot more strict, a lot more disciplined. Then we dive into our era, where I feel the dressing room became a lot more relaxed. You obviously took on the captaincy. How big a role and how big a change of view did you have in your own personal game taking on that role?
Yeah, good question. I think leadership for me was always something that I felt a sense of comfort in. I felt comfortable in it, in that space, in that skin. So I would actually say like almost more comfortable in that space, and actually sometimes as a batter, as a player, felt a lot more insecurities around that. But I think the nice thing for me is when you have the opportunity of learning from great guys around you. So first guy I played on was Martin van Jaarsveld, extreme disciplinarian, like conservative Afrikaans, like
strict,
very strict. And that comes from the Afrikaans culture. So there was a learning from that of things that, what are some things that are important to have as a captain, as a discipline, as that. And then, like yourself, being lucky enough to play under Graham and seeing his stature and the way that he spoke to a dressing room, like every time he opens his mouth, you're just like, ugh. Amazing how well they spoke and how they owned the dressing room. So felt that was a real strength. And then I was, once again, a year later, go into the Chennai dressing room, and you go, this is MS Dhoni and Stephen Fleming, which is like if you went Smith, Fleming, Dhoni, in that era, it was probably 3 of the best captains. So in a year, I was lucky enough to almost like steal with my eyes and my ears. What are the things that these guys do that's so great? And I had a perception of MS Dhoni, of like, because I played under, call it now Van Jaarsveld, Smith, how big their personalities was. And you go, MS Dhoni, he's going to be twice the size of that because of who he is in India. And I was surprised how completely the opposite he was to them. Like, he was not a guy that spoke almost ever in a dressing room, team meetings. And you go, wow, okay, so in order to be a good captain, you don't necessarily have to be the best speaker in the room. I love how well Graham spoke and how important that was to me. But I don't have to be Graham Smith. I don't have to have that same level of when speaking to people. And MS Dhoni has got a level where it's completely different. Fleming is the guy that speaks really well, articulates things really well, is a good man manager. Now you learn that side of things. So it's really in that year where I went, okay, there's a few things that I can take, and you almost put it into your own, we'll call it like a soup, and you mix it in. And you go, okay, what are the things that I can put to myself that is really important to me? Because I think the most important thing for any leader to understand is you cannot be someone else. You cannot try and, I can never be Graham Smith. I can never be MS Dhoni. Because when you're under pressure, it will come through. It will seem fake. It won't be real. So I think it was lucky enough at that time where I got to learn from some great leaders before me, but then just finding my own way in that. And I was like, okay, I'm never going to be that. I'm a guy that wants to be one of the boys. I want to be relatable. I understand insecurities. I understand failures. So I want to be relating to people on that level. I don't want to be the best, AB, the best player. That's obviously the other captain that we play under. So for him, things are just easy. Just do this.
And and I suppose it's difficult to relate for those kind of guys, because things come so easy.
So, yeah, exactly.
You make mention of the fact that obviously you've played under different leaders. You had to build your own leadership style. And it's fascinating that you talk about, players that are struggling. I think that was probably one emphasis that you greatly put, a spotlight on, to put an arm around the shoulder, as opposed to the Graham Smith way of doing things, where it's hard and you just need to step up and you just need to do things. I suppose the difficulty therein lies, where do you find that balance? Because as much as you want to put an arm around a player, you also need to be firm and stern to gain the best out of that player. And I suppose I was there in Australia, when you came up and you said you don't feel the team has your back. Take me a little bit through that. I mean, obviously there's a lot that happens behind the scenes. I mean, we get to see you as the captain, the player, but away from the game, there's a lot that happens in your own mind. Can you talk me a little bit through that?
Yeah, that was a super interesting time because, first of all, your first question, I think it's really important that when you speak about people that are the friend and the shoulder to cry on, there's definitely a line, because I think the great leaders is also people that there's not just that. They can be a friend, they can be your supporting actor, but they can also be the coach, the strict guy, the guy that calls you out, because you need to have different hats. You need to wear different hats I think as a good leader, to understand in what space am I challenging this guy. So today you might need a shoulder to cry on, but tomorrow you might need not a shoulder. You actually might need a little kick up with the backside.
Tap on the backside.
So I think that's really important. So at no stage did I also felt comfortable in that, and having conversations. It wasn't lekker, it wasn't easy. It's not nice to have a conversation with someone where you have to call him out and challenge him. But I think if you're not doing it, then you are letting yourself down as a captain, because once again, then you're missing an opportunity to be a good captain. So I think that's really important. And then Australia was, and that's the remarkable thing about perspectives, right? So when you are international cricketer, as you would know, everyone faces their own pressures with them in their own selves, because your role and your position are consistently under pressure and scrutiny and the performance around that. So, but when you're a captain, obviously it's your own personal game, which you're under pressure for, but you're also under pressure for the team's performances, right? And when you go to a place like Australia, as you know, the captain is the target for Australian media, because they know if they can put pressure on the captain, and we've seen this with Stokes now in England, that's a great game plan to have, because if you can get the captain not to perform, the team is already at a slight disadvantage. So that series, obviously, we played unbelievable. I mean, to go 2-0 up in the series, and it was a great series. I mean, how good was that series to be a part of? Going up at 2-0, and then that Mintgate happened, where I remember it was like we were sitting and we were having drinks after almost like a fines meeting after the test match, and there was like a little bit of a whisper going on around, there's something coming out on shining the ball, and we were like, what? Because before the series, we spoke about Australia's going to come with something, right? They always come with something. The media is going to try and throw mud at you, and hopefully something sticks somewhere. So we were like, oh, they're just trying to cause trouble here. Let them do whatever they want to do. The next day, it got a bit more, almost like petrol in the tank. Social media started coming up around these things. So then it was like, wow, this is all over social media. And we were like, this is getting more. But still, I was like, are they actually being serious here? We shine the cricket ball all the time. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm taking my 2 fingers and I'm slapping it at the back of my tongue because I'm trying to shine the ball. It's just part of the game. And if that's something we did wrong, then you're going to have to go back a long way, because then the whole world is shining the ball. So
I remember at the same time they brought up some visuals of Kohli. Remember that?
Yes.
Straight after, same thing. Yeah, I always refer the Aussies to, they will do whatever it takes to
whatever.
win. And I suppose, which also leads me into the next conversation or topic. We all face controversy in our careers. We all face pressure, like you've just mentioned. Talk about the Aussies. We played them at this very venue, and there was a particular incident that happened. Sandpapergate. Yeah, I mean, in your perspective, could they have handled it better? And how much did that change the world of cricket? Because I know there was probably a year afterwards where the whole world was gossip, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Then saliva got taken away from signing the ball. Do you think it's fair? I mean, what do you make of that whole year in totality?
Yeah, I think once again, to put it in perspective, almost like I have to go back to that series against Australia where, the Mintgate thing then gets blown out of proportion. I go through absolute scrutiny as media every day when I go to the press. It's like, wow, everyone is hammering me all the time. And now there's more pressure on you. And it's at that time where it was really then, it was great for me to see then when the team stepped in. And I remember specifically that press conference when there was like the team standing on the field, right? So it was like that, going through that, and I was like, this team, we're a united team. But then going through that experience, and Steve Smith at that time was asked in an interview at that stage when we were in Australia and we're under the pump and the media is just going bang, bang, bang. And he was asked, what do you think about, shining the ball? And there's an opportunity for him to go, because now the whole media is saying, this guy's a cheat, this guy's doing something illegal. And he went, no, everyone shines the ball. So he went against the media. And myself saw that and I was like, respect, man. You didn't have to do that. You could have chosen the other side. And there was a few guys in the dressing room as well that was like, respect. And that's sometimes when you do the right thing, right? So fast forward to 2018, behind us here when that happened, Cameron Bancroft, and honestly, my first instincts with him was I felt sorry for the guy, because there was another incident earlier in my career in Pakistan when I took the ball and put it on the zip.
Don't worry, we both were fine for that.
I forgot about you. It feels like it was just me, but it was the same thing. It was just like cricket was played like that. You know, reverse swing is such a big thing in the subcontinent, so you're going to try and make that ball reverse. So, and the same thing, I didn't know how to get it. I mean, I remember even trying to use like a nail back then, but my nail broke, and I was like, guys, my nail's too soft for this. So you're going to have to try. But it was just part of the game. So I think when I saw him, first of all, him do that, and I was like, sham. Like, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to get the ball to reverse swing, because taking a piece of sandpaper out of your pocket with camera is like, it's not the most cleverest thing to do, but who am I? Because I was in the same position as him. So I think first of all it was that. And then it was that whole incident was, I mean, we were, sitting after the day's play, and we were like, the Australian media is like, the team is taking like an hour before the press conference has to start. So we're like, why are they taking so long? What are they doing? And then they came out with that statement, and that statement was just like putting Blitz under a fire and just going there. When they were saying like, no one knows about it, the captain had no idea, the coach had no idea, and then everyone was just like, well, hang on, what's going on here? Everyone knows what goes on in a dressing room. So I think it was more the way that they handled that caused a lot of noise. And then it went back to Australia, where Australia, the Prime Minister got involved. The ex-cricketers were smashing the team about how can you do that? And we were sitting there going, come on, guys. It's not like you guys
Are the first to do it.
you never did it. Like, don't be glass house. Everyone has done it at some stage in their career. So, yeah, Warner, Smith, and Bancroft were the three guys that were actually the guys that got caught. But once again, to take it back was then that I felt the right thing to do was to send Steve Smith a message and say, listen, I know you guys are trying to do the right thing. You're going to go through some crap over the next. I thought it was going to be like a week or a month, because that's what I experienced. But it ended up being a year. I was just like, I'm sorry you're going through this. You shouldn't take the brunt of this. It's a thing that unfortunately should fall on the whole team. But yeah, I felt for Bancroft, I felt sorry for him because he just didn't know how to do it. And Steve Smith for trying to do the right thing, to be the captain and say, it's my show, it's my ship, I take responsibility. I think they could have handled that a little bit better. Like in our instance, ICC, the code of conduct is not that strict in terms of it. You get maybe a game punishment or a 50% match fee or a 100% match fee, like a hard slap on the wrist, and then their life moves on. But Cricket Australia had other ideas, and they made that thing become a very big thing.
Yeah, I think on that point, I suppose people often forget that we're only human beings after all. I just think the scrutiny is so much on players these days, isn't it? And I suppose you talk about the way they perhaps overreacted to that scenario. In your view, how different do you think they could have handled it?
Yeah, I think just let the ICC deal with it. I think when you let politics and stuff come into sport, it never ends well. And that's the case when then the politics of the Prime Minister and everyone putting pressure on them, and they're feeling like they have to act. They have to act to show that they're doing something. I think that becomes a dangerous precedent. I think if they took it on the chin on that night and say, look, Cameron, I would have said, I'm sorry, I did a bad thing. I'm young in international cricket, and I'm sorry, which he obviously did. But I think he would have gotten a 50% match fee from the ICC. Steve Smith would have played the next Test match. David Warner, they would have played the whole rest of the year. But what ended up happening is they missed a year of cricket.
Well, you've heard it from a proper leader. Don't try and be brave in situations you can't control yourself. Faf, I'm going to take you away from all the cricket. You're a family man. How has that changed your perspective on life?
Yeah, I think the best blessing we all can get is kids just changes your world completely, doesn't it? I mean, and I think especially girls, it just makes you into a gooey.
You know what they say about
I know what they say.
guys having girls. I won't go into detail.
Why isn't Herschel got goals?
Maybe he's got a few wandering around the world, the globe.
No, but it was honestly such a great thing that could have happened to me, because I think it teaches you just the values of how you treat people. I mean, I see my role as a dad as being such an important one for my girls, because I believe I'm going to shape their whole lives. Like for the rest of their life, they'll look at boyfriends and husbands and stuff in the way that I behave and the values that I set them now.
Hopefully they don't behave the way you did.
So, but remember what I'm behave like now, right? So it's like that's what they see every day. So the example and the values and the principles you have as a family, and especially as a man, it's really important to get that right for them. But yeah, it's the best thing that's happened. Kids is great, and it also what's become really important to me is to understand the balance of my profession in sport and family life. So I think luckily for our generation, we do have choices now. But 20, 50 years ago, you didn't have the luxury to go, I'm just going to not go to that and not go to that. So the position that I am post-international cricket is family needs to take first priority, but also I'm still extremely serious about playing my sport, and I love what I do. So that balance is almost like if it's 100%, maybe 3 years ago it was 60-40 towards cricket. Now it's 70-30 towards family because of the phases that I'm moving into in terms of family life and not being away from my family as much as I used to be in the past. Because international cricket, 3-format player, you don't have the choice. You just put your head down and you look after your career, and they come with. But now with school, they can't come with all the time. So it's just getting that balance right.
Talk about 2 goals. Does it make you feel small in a way? You have to drop the ego. In the younger phase, what was your role? What was your shift? Midnight to 6 a.m. or were you the guy that wouldn't let go of your sleep?
No. So yeah, my wife was always the one that wanted to get up, but I think especially when it became 2, it was almost like the other kid then becomes your responsibility. It's just that infant stage where, because it was always breast milk, so it was never a bottle. So it was always she wanted to get up in the night and feed and stuff like that. But I mean, that's the phase where you don't sleep. You just wake up. I remember one day standing with a dog in my hand and I was patting him on the back like I was burping him. Thinking it was one of my babies, and I was like, what's going on here? But all of those phases are so great to be a part of. But yeah, the first 2 years is tough.
Well, you're still pretty much active. You're still playing a little bit. But is there anything slowing you down at this moment, or is it just about that fun factor? And I suppose you talk about finding the balance in your family life. At what stage are you just going to say, hey guys, let me just hang up these boots or in a bat in your instance?
Yeah, great. I mean, I think that's something that I've thought wouldn't have gone so far as it has. I remember when I moved away from international cricket, I was 37 at the time, and I was like, I'm going to give it 2 years of pushing harder and playing the circuit as much as possible, because what I did see from the guys that did it before me is that the guys who stopped playing international cricket and moved into the circuit world treated the circuit world as a holiday. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I've always been a guy that wants to maximize my full potential, at least for myself, to try and say that I've done everything possible. So I treated circuit world as international world, no different. The standards were the same. And those 2 years went by like this. And obviously you're in the IPL, I was captain of RCB, so you've got a different purpose, different motivation. So that 2 years became 3 years. And now, 41 turning 42, it hasn't felt like it's going away yet. So I just see it as just make sure. So like for instance, the SA20, I'm as motivated with the SA20 as I would be with the IPL and winning a trophy and performing well and training hard and rocking up at a level where my body can do what it needs to do. So the drive is still there. I see it as it's three things. Can you physically still do it? As a batter, can your eyes still see the ball? Because that's what everyone says. Your eyes is the first thing that goes. All of a sudden, the short ball feels a lot quicker, and you start ducking at everything. So far I felt that my eyes are in a good place still to still face 140, 150. The drive is the drive still there from a mental point of view, and then the body, like, is the body still saying it can do it? Like, is it injuries? And I've had some setbacks now in terms. I had an infection after an operation that wasn't great, and I fell on my thumb. So, but physically, I still feel like I can do what I need to do to be at the top level. And even training now, leading up to the competitions that I'm going in, I'm like, I wonder if I could. I wonder if IPL, like maybe it's like, and I'm like, what? Just park it there for a minute. But it's the equation of don't sacrifice family, and because the family, and that's what I just got to make sure that I keep doing. So as long as I see them, it's like finding those gaps in between. So if a tour is 4 or 5 weeks, I'm off for 4 or 5 weeks where I'm with the family again. But the drive is still there. I'm sure at some stage Vernon will sit and I'll go, the drive's not there anymore. But at the moment, surprisingly, it's still there.
You talk about family, you look very calm, but we all know there is a bit of pressure behind the scenes. How much of that pressure has urged you to keep going? And is there also maybe a stage where you feel, wow, it is time to hang these boots up and really, I mean, we all have a lifespan that probably, I mean, batters in your case probably a little bit longer than us bowlers, but yeah, I mean, when do you feel is the right moment to really pull the plug and say, you know what, now it's just family time?
Yeah, look, I'm expecting it's not going to be too long away, but the difference I find, and maybe it's because of the world of cricket, of what it is right now, how it's changed, is that you go for a 3-week competition and then you're back. Do you understand? Like, I see that as, if I was a working man, you're working, let's call it 9 to 5, you're also busy with doing work. You also miss out on a little bit of things. But for me, pressure from my family, there isn't any. There's no pressure. And I think that can be a reason why some players stop earlier, because there's pressure from, look, you've done this for long now, and I need you at home. I need you to. So that's not, in my case, it's not there. It's more pressure for myself in terms of like, have I maximized my full potential? And obviously the answer is yes to that, because I've had a good long career. But while I'm still feeling like there's juice left to squeeze in the lemon, while I'm still feeling that that's there, I will keep pushing that without sacrificing family. So maybe in a year's time, that thing comes where I feel like I'm done, I'm over it. Body is saying no, mind is saying no, eyes are going. As long as my performance drop, I'll go.
All right. You've had the opportunity of being in an IPL setup, and you talk about players' standards, players stepping out of the international frame into tournaments like the IPL. How much do you feel that has changed the mentality of players, but also overall, how much do you feel that has changed the game and the way players see it these days?
Massively, massively, because international cricket is not the first priority anymore. Once again, it's just the world of where sport is right now. I don't think there's a right and a wrong. When we started playing the game, that wasn't an option. So in order to have a successful career that sets yourself up from a financial point of view, you had to play for South Africa. Right? I mean, everyone tries to do that, and obviously there's guys that have a successful career in playing domestic cricket as well, and that's a successful career. But for us, it was like, if I'm going to maximize my earning capabilities, you have to play for South Africa for a long period of time. That's the only way. It was our only, or county cricket back then. That was the two avenues. What's changed now is there's so much money outside of international cricket. So yes, the IPL is the big one, but also now there's all these leagues around the world that would pay you much more than a domestic team could pay you. So now as a young cricketer, if you're coming through, you're either a guy that's driven to play for South Africa in all 3 formats, which there will be a lot of guys, and they will do the work, they will do the time, or you're a guy that goes, you know what, I just want to play T20 cricket. I want to get to the IPL, So I just want to play T20 cricket. And there is an avenue for that, and that's the SA20, which we didn't have also. So there's different ways to skin a cat right now. So yeah, our way was you had to graft, you had to do it for a long period of time. But now you can have a guy coming in his first year earning, 5 million upwards in terms of one contract. So you understand why there is almost two ways of doing it now, and that's the pressure is even more and more. It will become on international cricket to try and to keep players to play international cricket.
All right, this is the segment that I'm going to enjoy, but I'm pretty sure you watching is going to enjoy even more. Who's the hardest bowler you've ever faced or come up against?
Saeed Ajmal.
Why?
Because I couldn't pick him.
All right, toughest captain you played under?
I'd say Martin van Jaarsveld at that time, because it's where you are in your career. So very strict guy, very good captain, but I was like, wow, this guy is proper strict.
Favorite cricket ground in the world?
Newland's favorite cricket ground at the world, favorite place to bat, Adelaide.
Best atmosphere?
Chinnaswamy, Bangalore, just from a noise perspective.
You feel almost like a dome. One player you hated losing to?
David Warner.
Why am I not surprised? Worst dressed?
Probably Tiennis de Bruin.
Is that old khaki shorts and khaki shirts?
He looked like he was going hunting.
In the bush, yeah, I expected that. One teammate you'd never go on holiday with?
Well, I'm gonna make it funny. The reason why I say, I would actually go on holiday with him because I think he's great value. But someone that was such great value in the change room, but at times you just went, can you please just shut up? Was Chris Morris. Remember?
Nothing's changed, trust me. You don't want to be working in the comms box with him either.
But then he has to talk, right? But and when pressure was so high, he would just nyama, 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 nyama. But obviously great value in the dressing room.
All right, and favorite IPL city?
Bangalore.
One thing fans completely misunderstand about cricketers?
Maybe that life as a cricketer is all just glitz and glamour and that's easy. I think, but that's sport in general, but I misunderstood that it comes with a lot of hard work and sacrifices.
All right, then now I'm going to put you to the test. Which teammate you reckon will survive the longest on a deserted island?
Yeah, I'd go with one of these Afrikaans guys that will build things, kill things. So someone like a Morné Morkel would be, he'll make something to sleep in out of palm trees. He'll go and kill an animal.
Create his own fishing rod.
So I would say create a fishing rod, go and catch fish. So Dale would also be a pretty good guy because Dale loves the outdoors and very resourceful, but he can't cook. So.
All right, and besides yourself, who spend the most time in the mirror?
I don't spend a lot of time in the mirror.
Come
this
on,
is
man.
a question that gets a lot of time, and it's if someone said, what is the question you said about cricketers? Misunderstood. I actually very quick in the mirror, but I take a lot of stuff with me on tour that is a lot of face creams, clothes. I travel heavy. But in terms of getting ready in the morning, this is just a comb through the hair and it's ready.
I find that so hard to believe. You might as well just admit that you take the mirror with you wherever you go. I suppose it's that time where we flip the script, Fafi. It's your time to have a go at me.
You have two choices, right? You can make it easy or you can make it hard. And because you've
go for it.
Because you've made it easy for me, I will return the favor. Favorite coach that you've played under?
Gary Kirsten.
Right.
I think I had the privilege of playing with him, so I got to see his work ethic, but also the way he manages players. I think he's had a very unique style I don't think he was a coach where you saw a lot of him, but you know where you stood with him. So I think he was very direct and clear in his messaging, what he expected of you as a player. But more importantly, he gave you that platform to go out there and really express yourself.
Yeah, he was very good. I want to say your favorite wicket to get, but I want to say then which is the guy that you disliked the most that made it the favorite wicket?
Well, you touched on this a little earlier, David Warner. Yeah, I suppose he was one of those players that you really enjoyed going to battle against. And yeah, I suppose he's one of those players that always wanted to dominate you, but also got under your skin as a player. And he's one of the guys that you want to get out and just get rid of him as quickly as possible.
I'm sure a lot of people would have that as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Last
Not a very
question.
light cricketer.
What is your, because me and you are sitting here today, what is your favorite memory of the two of us?
That is a very, very good question, Faf. But I think winning that test match in Hobart, I remember winning the first one in Perth where we went the bowler down, Dale broke down, and you calling us together. But I think just the way we've become friends over the years, I think obviously we've been there junior days, England under 19s, we're Faf. And then, yeah, I suppose walking the journey together, I think yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to connect with a proper human being, and I think the memories we've shared, yeah, cricket is a part of it, but I think, going away from the game, understanding each other. So I really enjoy that moment in Hobart. I think with the adversity that we faced, to overcome and beat Australia in Australia is always a massive feat. But yeah, just the way that you've obviously led from the front, your leadership qualities, yeah, I think that's something that I really enjoyed about you.
We had to actually surprisingly forget about how long it came, like under 19 academy, the first S under 19 tour. It's a long time, I mean, you also played international cricket early, like you were much ahead of me, but it's almost like caught up. And we were a group of players that grew up together, that spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, I think you talk about Dave Nosworthy and the involvement he's had with us as cricketers, and I think it stems from the academy days where we had to get up at 5 a.m. myself and JP because we couldn't get across the fitness hurdle, unlike you boys that were born for it. I remember there were days where myself and JP had to get up and start running at 5:30 in the morning with the dew on the field. Those ice cold swimming pools at the
HBC.
At the HBC. So yeah, those were fantastic memories. But I think sitting here today, it's just wonderful to see how you've grown as a player, as a leader, as a father. And yeah, I mean, it was fantastic to walk this journey with you.
Yeah, it's great memories. It's a pleasure to be here with you and your podcast. Wish you all the best. It's always easy when people can just say yes to when someone asks, because it means that you've got that relationship. So people will drop whatever they do to come and assist. So you'll see, all of us will wish you all the best for that.
All right, Fafi, before I let you go, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? And then you go a decade later, your 30-year-old self. And then, of course, on the brink where you are today, about to retire.
Yo, that's deeper. I would say 20-year-old self, be okay with failing. Like, I put a lot of pressure on myself where you think like you have to do it now, you have to. And it's at that stage, be okay with failing, learn from your failures, get better from your failures. Like, I think there's a lot to learn from when you're in your 20s, and just looking at failure and going, what can I learn from it? 30s, what advice would I give to my 30-year-old self? Enjoy your prime, like really enjoy your prime. Like, 40s, enjoy your prime. Because I'm still playing now. Take everything as much in as possible, because you never know when it can be your last. And I do play like that. I love the game so much, so don't take it for granted.
All right then. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you again, brother.
Nice.